Welcome to Front Row Geeks.
Yeah.
All right. I'm doing that just right now. Well, I don't know if you guys saw the episode, but I did salvage some of it. It looks like the first 7 minutes of a recording worked. Then there was whatever gap, and then when I quote unquote saved it is when we picked back up.
Okay.
So.
Well, it sounds like you would need to edit it heavily to make it make sense.
I just put in like a little beep, and then it was a clear indication that something had went awry. All right, so we've gotten started. This is a good way to intro. Nice, smooth
Jazz
entry into. Smooth jazz would be great. We should find free smooth jazz that I'm allowed to play, and it won't get our podcasts and YouTube videos taken down.
I really don't want to do that because, as far as I can tell, even free copyright free music occasionally gets tossed in with the pay
copyright
for some reason.
Yeah, I've been seeing some really crazy news about various aspects of people being sued for stuff that they paid for with legally binding contracts saying that, yes, they own the complete rights.
Oh, hey, the Project Melody stuff.
Yeah, that could be added in is just kind of like, oh, hey. Admittedly, like, that's more like legalistic thing, and we're not really that, but it's VTuber stuff, which is kind of geekdom.
That's like what
anyway.
we do.
How's the recording?
We are doing good. We are smooth assailant.
Okay,
so I
butter.
Think we're okay.
Let's start the episode proper then.
Hi, everybody. This is Front Row Geeks, episode 151. Not the real 151, but the one we're going to call 151, because that's just how numbers work in my life.
Episode.
I'm Eddie, Baron5X, joined by David Asher and MPX.
Yes.
And we have a smorgasbord of news topics to go over today. But before I do any of that, the important thing I want to bring up at the top, this is the time of year we would normally do a Extra Life type of event, but things have been kind of hectic, so FRG didn't really do anything on that front.
Yeah, sorry, everybody.
But my brother is, so I'm going to include a link to his efforts on the description of this episode. So he could do me the biggest fave and contribute to I'm going to call but it's really his efforts. So please consider clicking on that link in the description and doing a little bit of donation. It's for the children. And all my nephews two. Okay, I need to start that whole over. A nephew and a niece of mine will have contributed. Oh my God, why am I screwing that all up?
Blorb.
There's stakes in there, and there's personal stakes in there. That's what I was trying to say.
T-bone or rare?
My family benefits from this because we have family that goes there. That's hospitals important. Saving kids. Please do it for the children. That's all I wanted to say. David, say something nice.
Things are happening. Donate.
Nice.
Save children.
And I thank you.
But seriously, folks, this year has probably been pretty bad for everybody. So it's probably even worse for those that really need it. So please try to have a bit of kindness and donate what little you have, because what little you have may become enough to at least make somebody smile this year.
Well said. Thank you very much. And with that, let's go on to today's topics. So, since last week, I have seen the first 2 episodes of the season of Mandalorian, which, by the way, no, it wasn't a double-stuffed premiere last week.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've been catching all the rumors flying about.
But by this point, there's been 2 Fridays. I made it a point to watch the second episode this morning as the day of this recording. So I'm caught up in the 2 latest episodes. And I have to say, The Mandalorian still brings it. It's still a good show. Especially that first episode, they did some really good quality kind of production to it. They basically had a whole huge Star Wars-sized monster that I don't know if I've ever seen another work of Star Wars, but it was related, and they just did a good job with it. Like it was very forgiving CGI that was used to do everything. I mean, I'm assuming CGI. I don't know how much of it is actual practical effects. If it is, it's pretty good. But yeah, Disney's really doing a lot with this, and I think the more important thing is they're letting the creative team work their magic. And if you thought the Star Wars movies were overtly produced and produced by committee, which likely they were, very likely they were, I think this incarnation of Star Wars is very much either detached from that concept, or the creators are doing a way better job of wrangling the said executive. Because there's just some good stuff in this. It's just the kind of fun I think a lot of people wanted.
I think the reality is that this was a spin-off project that wasn't given the main support that the movies were given. So they probably were given a bit more free reign, especially since they got the go-ahead when this was probably before The Last Jedi dropped. So there was probably much better support and optimism inside the company.
Not The Last Jedi, you mean the other one, right?
Probably The Last Jedi.
The Rise of Skywalker was the third movie.
First of all, you have to also count all the side story movies that they were being produced. Secondly, there was the fact that these things get started a lot sooner than just 9 months out of their construction. So
apologies, I wasn't sure if that was the point you were making, or if you were just saying that it came out.
When they got probably the green light to start doing this, it wasn't just simply them starting filming. I'm saying like before they started just the project in its conception with its probably principal, writer and director and things
That's
like that.
That's an excellent point. I'm almost certain if I Wikipedia, you're going to be absolutely right that production for this started well before.
I'm really guessing, especially since this is an internal thing, that they probably don't like outsiders knowing per se. Like they'd love to do the announcements of hey, we have Dave Filoni and other person on set to do the Mandalorian, so many years ahead. Like the fact that they've already announced Star Trek Discovery Season 4 before they've even finished Season 3 and things like that. And other announcements of who's on what and what project's going greenlit and things like that. Except sometimes it gets screwy.
In case it makes a difference for you at all, according to what we have, Lucasfilm announced that Favreau would write and executive produce a new Star Wars series for Disney Plus in March 2018.
Okay, in March 2018, that is definitely after The Last Jedi, because it released in December or November in 2017.
Yes, that is correct.
So, yeah.
Although, I mean, I think more to your point is that, Jon Favreau and the other gentleman, Dave Filoni, this is not the first time they've worked together. So I'm sure they've brainstormed something like this well beforehand.
Well, it was also the fact that, as I understood, they actually asked George Lucas for some advice. So that may have had some, input on how to do The Mandalorian or how to do a Star Wars setting.
So I guess with that in mind, do you then think that there's a little bit of the George Lucas era that we're seeing in this?
Well, what I'm thinking is that it's still Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau's project. It's their baby. They have pretty good command on it. I think the reality is that they just simply reference George Lucas, since he is the principal designer of the world in many ways. As many people have often criticized, George Lucas can be a good director, but he does need people to rein him in and need a good editor, because people have stated that Star Wars was saved in the edit, that the reason why the prequels were so all over the place in terms of really bland filmmaking is because George Lucas was really concentrating on the special effects versus, the actual cinematography. That's why you have the annoying reverse shot for a lot of scenes and things like that, for dialogue.
I think you're absolutely right. I think few would argue against the kind of the raw creative ability I think George Lucas put into this. He created a foundation that people still work off of to this day. But yeah that definitely needed some refinement. Raw ability that needed refinement.
Well, there's a reason why writers need editors. It's not because necessarily the writer isn't incapable of writing something good. It's just that there's a certain point where they do need a second opinion that can state whether or not they need to do this, whether this is a good thing. In many ways, the editor is the first reader trying to make sure that the draft actually comes out good.
Okay, so Now I wish you guys were on top of Mandalorian, because the question I want to ask now is that whether you think Favreau and Filoni, wow, Favreau and Filoni, that's kind of funny when you say it
Well,
out loud. If they're going to be subject to, like, are they disciplined enough in and themselves not to fall for that same trap, or do you think someone like those two
uh,
need heavy refinement as well?
well, without watching the entirety of The Mandalorian, without seeing anything of The Mandalorian season 2, without trying to be persuaded by other people's opinions about whether this is good or bad or whatever, it's hard to say. I think there is always a case of people getting too arrogant into thinking that they are hot shit and they are fully capable of making the next great American novel, the next Catcher in the Rye, the next being the next Mark Twain, or any sort of
The
big,
next Star Wars.
yes, any sort of supposed milestone of their career, and oftentimes that sort of thing will destroy whatever they're trying to do because they're not really paying attention to it, and with the same sort of attentiveness of realizing that they need to have that level of dedication to this to make it actually good, so they don't lose, so they actually have payoffs and rewards, that the characters have moments so you care about them if they die or succeed. Because if you don't care if the character lives or dies, it doesn't matter what the character does.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty important.
So it's sort of getting into how, Dumb and Dumber managed to screw up Game of Thrones by season 8. They really
I had to think about for a second who you were talking about, but yeah.
they didn't because it was already in the weeds, because they stated that they were getting like offers all the time for new writers to come in to help them finish the final season, to help them do it, but then they refused, and that's what we got out of the both of them for the final season. And it's like
That's an excellent point. Because I mean, to defend them a little bit, they gave us an incredible show up to a point, to me
when they were
that
just adapting the material, they were doing it very well.
so they definitely that's definitely a team that I think has a lot of potential, but needs some reins, right, or some sort of like
Well, I
objective
think that was
move.
specifically because they were so far into the show that they were given almost unquestionable power, essentially.
Mhm.
Secondly, they were given probably the intention to finish the show as soon as possible, so they probably sped up things. Like, let's be honest, if George R. R. Martin was the producer on the show and was given an unlimited budget, he would probably have like 20 seasons.
Yeah.
And we are talking 20
be the
full
Simpsons.
seasons of like everything, all of his characters, all the ones that were cut off, all the miscellaneous things, everything done. Like, it would be chaos for any sort of producer to accept that. It sort of like would be the heaven's gate of television. But then again, because of how television is produced, they would never sign off on that.
Not to go
They
in
would,
another
like,
tangent, but do you think him working on what's that game, the Elder Ring or whatever, is maybe the best for him?
I have no idea. Like, I don't know his track record in video games or any sort of games. He has done television. He's obviously written some very successful novels, but writing for a game, even if he's doing more lore-centric stuff, because most of the Dark Souls games and From Software stuff really relies more on a lore-centric world. Like, even if we go to their more older series like Armored Core and Kingsfield, well, are you going to say that Armored Core really doesn't have a lot of lore, or what?
No, Armored Core actually does have some plotline, and it's just the fact that like half the time, like when you don't get some of it unless you do like some of the missions in order to get all of it.
Yeah.
Because like the one that I can think of right now off the top of my head is For Answer, where like you have 4 different endings that actually explain more. Like you actually don't get a lot of like what the hell's happening in the world unless you actually get to play all 4 of those different route splits
to understand all the perspectives going into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also a thing of that your main character really is your main character in most of the Armored Core games really isn't, the hero of the story. He's sort of like the like in Dark Souls,
a bystander or somebody that just gets swept up into.
Yeah, you're not really the real chosen one. You're sort of the arbitrary chosen one. It could have been any undead that could have rung the 2 bells, but it's you.
Yeah. Basically, you're the special guy because, well, you're the
You succeeded.
first one. You succeeded.
You just happen to be the one.
Yeah. Whereas, like, in Armored Core, it's like, oh, hey, you're just a random mercenary that starts getting swept up in, like, huge socio-political battles that are happening, and somehow ended up fighting, like, super AIs that the mega corporations want to implement instead of continuing to use real-life people. Hello, Nineball. It's been a while.
Yeah, you know, a lot of that also sounds like the Kingdom Hearts mobile game, because like everything that happens in that game is very little about your own character. You're just there.
I think the only like gotcha / mobile game that would probably do a decent story for what it is probably Fate Grand Order, considering that the story in Fate Grand Order actually has a story that centers around you.
Your principal character was, your average do-nothing, like you are there, is just sent there to round out the numbers, essentially.
Yeah.
They weren't expecting anything from you. What?
Let's not get too deep into Fate.
Okay,
Fate stuff, because
let's actually get back on topic of things. Like, all right,
if we have time today,
Mandalorian. What?
If we have time today, we can get to it. It's on the topic list, but depends if we get that far.
Back on to Mandalorian season 2. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think it's still good, still worth watching, and I think it's going to grow with its success. I have faith in Filoni and Favreau to take it where it needs to go. And at this point, I think they're disciplined enough not to get into get in their own way. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, next thing I'm going to bring up is the movie Hubie Halloween. In retrospect, because we didn't get to it last week, where I think it would have made more sense now, like a week away from Halloween. Now it feels less exciting, but I think all I'm really going to say about it is that it was a fine movie, a fine Halloween movie. It's a good addition. It's a good Adam Sandler movie, is what you would expect, and it's funny.
That's if you're into Adam Sandler movies.
We covered this last time, or did we do that off?
I think we did it off. So
and I think what you're saying is almost everything I need to say on it. If you like his Happy Madison type of movies, this is along those lines. And if you care for any of that, this will be up your alley.
Versus people like me and MPX who,
well, we never got into Adam Sandler. Like, I have watched, I believe, Happy Gilmore, or is it another one?
It's definitely of that era.
The one I remember being forced to watch over at a friend's place was Bad Dad, and it just rubbed me the wrong way.
I don't remember that one. Are you sure it's called Bad Dad? Or is that the one where he has a kid that came out of nowhere? It's the one
where he has a 3-year-old kid following around. Like, I think the poster had them both pissing on a wall.
Pissing on a church door, I believe, actually. But yeah, it's that movie.
Scuba Steve, and that character came out of that one, right?
I don't remember, because I try and blank out anything dealing with Adam Sandler in general. Because I can understand why some people get his humor. Myself, not really. It rubs me the wrong way in general.
Oh, you're talking about Big Daddy, by the way. That's what I was trying to get to. Big Daddy.
Okay, Big Daddy. Because I know there's but at the same time, it's So
it's fair.
When I heard that a new Adam Sandler movie, it's well, that's another movie I can skip.
Uncut Gems might be worth watching. You might enjoy that one. It's kind of intense, though.
Well, from what I've heard, when somebody when he's doing super serious roles, he's really good. But he's been almost typecast in that shock jock humor role that no one really gets him to do serious roles anymore. So
I mean, now that he's done that one from last year, I think he'll start getting more of that little by little, or if he wants to. I think that's kind of his mythos, is that he chooses those very carefully, because he's done maybe 2 or 3 in his lifetime.
Well, he's probably one of the few actors that really gets to choose whatever roles he has. I mean, I've heard the main thing that he does with most of his silly movies or comedies is essentially that just extravagant parties for his friends and vacations.
Yeah, exactly. and because his movies are you bring in the dough, I think you're right. He pretty much has almost free reign about that. Like, I'm gonna make you money, so let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's go to Africa.
So no, it's just like when I heard about Hubie Halloween, because like Netflix actually is like, hey, this is a movie I would recommend for you to watch. I'm like, Netflix, you've been so far decent, but no, not this one.
It's pretty adorable. I mean, there's so many other things that if this is how you feel about his movies, yeah, you may never get to it. But if the day ever comes that you just like have nothing else to do, maybe give it a shot.
There'll be a lot of stuff to go
Yeah,
in between that.
I can't imagine.
My backlog is probably almost like 3 times as big as yours, Eddie.
We're talking
Game-
about movies or games?
I think just in general because mine gets mixed up.
Yeah, like Eddie constantly switches between games, movies, TV shows.
Anime, manga.
Yeah, I'm behind on my TV schedule. It's upsetting, and it's just so hard.
Whereas mine is like TV, anime, games, and books. And maybe a little bit manga. Tiny bit.
Okay, let's go on to the next thing, which I think we can roll right into quite nicely. This week, I think the day you hear this, it's a Tuesday, we will be 2 days out from the new generation of console games. Or actually, I think the Xbox comes out on the 10th. So today you'll actually start seeing a lot of that stuff. But the moral of the story is that we're in a new console generation. It is coming up. And the Xbox...
Today's the 7th.
Yeah, so the Xbox Series X comes out on Tuesday, and the PlayStation 5 comes out on Thursday, the 10th and the 12th, respectively.
Yeah.
Mm.
So,
Or was it supposed to not date the episode?
Eddie releases Eddie's caught up on actually releasing these, so he's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this will be out on Tuesday. So if you're hearing this, it's a Tuesday.
Anyway, thoughts?
So this is exciting, just because that with the coming console generation, I think everybody lifts the bar a little bit. So I mean, PC gaming, which I think a lot of us here do, always has its own bar, but this kind of raises the water level for everybody, and that could only means a raise for us
it
too.
Sounds like this year has actually been a pretty good year for raising the bar across the board. I mean, AMD is now really competing evenly with Intel.
They're surpassing it from the looks of things.
Actually, I've heard that there has been some confusion about that.
Ooh.
And the reason why there's confusion is because of esoteric complexities of trying to set up your system correctly to get the most out of your chipset.
Oh boy.
Like it has to deal with the memory timings on your RAM.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look into that because
Yeah.
Eddie knows about it, MPX knows about this, but I've been gauging PC parts to do an upgrade for my system.
Yeah, I would suggest double checking everything right now because this might be a good time to get in and upgrade your systems because they're offering it pretty low. Obviously, we're supposed to be talking about the console generations, but from what I've heard, those are also a significant upgrade. Like last generation was sort of because of the intergenerationalness of it, they were just sort of coasting on a lower, cheaper chipset and lower quality graphics just simply to get a better profit margin off of it, essentially. While this feels more of an upgrade than, say, the PS3 to the PS4 instead of this, which is going to be the PS4 to the PS5.
I think the PlayStation 4 was definitely like a I don't know if it brought anything new to the table, but anything that had come up to that point, it was really kind of refining. And I think now in this generation, you're seeing that further refinement on all those concepts. But I think like PlayStation, one of their more significant things they're doing is they're playing a lot more with the controller. Whether other developers pick up on any of that outside of like first party developers we'll find out. But they seem to be doing a little more on that front. I think both. Xbox
technically,
and
we also have to talk about essentially what's the Facebook thing? The Oculus Rift. Or
the Oculus.
The Quest 2, you mean?
Because the one thing that happened that I didn't understood for why it's such a big thing is that it's an all-in-one system.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The Quest is just that.
Yeah, and they talked about releasing the Oculus Quest 2. They've discontinued the Oculus Rift Go, which was basically just nothing more than, hey, do you want something to just sit back and watch stuff on a VR headset? kind of wish I could have gotten my hands on one just so I could sit there and watch like Netflix, Crunchyroll, or High Dive
Like-
on it.
Like I haven't like totally jumped on any of that stuff yet, but
hmm
I think Facebook's
Well, yeah.
doing a lot to make that stuff accessible.
Considering that, so kit versus all the nonsense that you would have to do with almost any other VR thing, considering the
Mhm.
success of the Sony's VR for the PlayStation 4. That's actually a good question. Is the current VR system actually compatible with this PS5? Because I didn't check that.
Not that I've heard.
I've heard nothing about it. Considering that technically the PlayStation Move controllers are still the same ones from the PS3 era that they package in there. It's weird.
Well, it's saving a buck.
It's saving a buck,
Probably
but at
billions.
yeah. But
Another
Go ahead,
important thing that I think you're seeing in this new generation that I think both console makers are really highlighting is the new embracing. Ooh man, is that the right phrase? They're embracing SSDs a lot more, which I mean sounds like kind of old news for PC builds, but they're really getting on top of that, and it's like a lot of the more dramatic changes people are seeing in this new generation is the decrease in load times.
yeah, considering that like I knew people. These were more of like the hardcore gamers that really wanted to just get as much out of something that literally like they'd buy a new. I knew a guy that literally bought top of the line 2 terabyte SSDs for his PS3 and PS4
Oh, nice. Is PS3?
because he was one of those types of people that I'm pretty sure was trying to get into the whole like LP style YouTuber, but then had to like got in a little bit late, so he had to start going into streaming. So he was both trying to do as much gaming as possible, but at the same time, try and get an audience to watch him to do so. The one downside I'd say about that person was that he would be playing niche anime games, which
Don't require that much power usually.
don't require that much power, and most of the time that most this was during the era when Fortnite ruled Twitch, like the height of when Ninja started showing up as a big name on Twitch kind of thing. So not his return to Twitch, but basically when Ninja
the golden ages.
got his zeitgeist of Fortnite. So let's see. But no, it's like technically like people could have put in their own SSDs to the PS3 or PS4 because they used stock standard 3.5-inch SATA drives for their hard drives. Admittedly, I feel that like a 2 terabyte for a PS3 was a little bit much.
That's commitment.
I mean, MPX and I can agree that 2 terabytes for a PS4 would probably be okay.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, unless you're going to be playing Call of Duty with the campaign in.
God, no.
I mean, well, in that case, you need it.
You wouldn't need... God.
Well, it would take up, for a 2 terabyte drive, an eighth of it.
1/8 of a drive.
Admittedly, I remember being joked about with my friends about them backing up their entire system on my computer one time during LAN parties because I had 40 gigs of memory. They only had 10.
And all I can think of nowadays is I am running out of space.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't help when everybody's bloating up file sizes all across the board and not really improving the compression stuff.
Truthfully, there's been a little bit of talk already that even the 1 terabyte sizes of the next gen consoles, and especially the 500-ish space on the semi next gen version of the Xbox Series S, file sizes might soon become a problem if developers aren't being wary of that.
Well, you would think that would be less of a problem as long as they're running off of the disk, but because there's the diskless version of the PS5, I'm pretty sure they're intending most of the time to have whatever, if they have a disk, that it's going to be essentially loading it up onto the drive anyway. So
yeah. So big question of the night is, are you going to be adopting one of those systems next week, Eddie? Because
No.
I'm not.
I'm not. And it just isn't time. Like,
I think it is way too early to state that this is the king of the next consoles. I'm buying day one.
Yeah.
Because we're not having the same problem as, say, the PS3 launch, where the possibility of it losing backwards compatibility with the PS2 because they eventually eliminated that part of the board for the PS3 for the
Yeah.
PS3 Slim. So,
God.
I mean, my personal biggest concern are the games and I have Game Pass for Xbox, so
mhm.
whatever games come
You're
out that were going to
good.
be, are going to be, I'm going to be good as far as Xbox games go. No problem there.
Yeah.
And I think all the Sony exclusives that I care about, they're not coming out anytime soon. Like maybe late 2021 at the earliest, which that would be the earliest I buy a console. Yeah, I'm still also kind of mentally holding out for like the PS5 Pro, because I would be so pissed if I like buy a PS5 and then like a Pro comes out.
First
Like I'd be pissed.
it's too far out for the PS5 Pro.
Yeah.
They're probably,
but-
if they are
yeah.
going to announce it, they're going to announce it to arrive through the halfway point of the console's life cycle, which is probably 2 to 3 years from now.
Yeah, because that PS5 is a chunker too, and I don't like.
Yeah.
I could use a slimmed down version of that, or at least one that
At least
has more
the
beef in
idea
it.
is if you purchase one of these things, you can purchase the other one back then, and then maybe try to get the other one later in its life cycle.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Because I mean, I will say that right now, one of the most enticing things about the PS5 is that a lot of the games that I currently play will now have like 4K 60 FPS support that I don't quite have that with the PlayStation 4 Pro right now. So
Well, I
that
think
that
it's
is kind of
mainly the
tugging at my
64
heartstrings.
Well, it's
Go ahead.
mainly the FPS limit, I would think,
Yeah.
for most people.
Yeah. So I mean, if I had to admit, it is tugging at me a little bit, but it's not going to be enough to make me do the purchase. I just upgraded my gaming PC. Like I'm not really hurting. Like,
Yeah.
Mm.
So
And
aside
without
from
a
issues
killer
that
app on these machines that you're going to say, I need it, you're going to be able to
Exactly.
pass.
once and actually I even saying that out loud, I don't know what exclusive that I would be worried about. Like maybe Bloodborne 2. Like that's if such a game is even in development, that might do it for me.
Considering
Final-
they haven't said anything, I think it's
Yeah.
more likely for Elden Ring, but has that already
Yeah.
been announced for all platforms?
I don't
Elden
know.
Ring. So far,
Well, they
we
can
know.
take it back, remember. They did the same with the Demon Souls remake
Yeah.
Which is only going to be PS5.
at the moment.
At the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But given the way that like Sony's been kind of operating, is the fact that it's like, oh, it's going to be PS5 exclusive for about a year or so, and then it shows up on Steam.
Well, it depends on how it's going. I think if the PS5 is doing well, it'll
Mhm.
probably share its exclusives a lot earlier. If it's not, I think they're going to hold on it a bit longer.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
I
see.
feel like a lot of the games I would care about aren't going to come out anytime soon. A Kingdom Hearts game isn't going to be out for a while. Final Fantasy Remake 2 is probably not going to be out for a while. Final Fantasy 16 not going to be out for a little while. Like that might be one of the ones I
More
put
than
money
a
down
while,
for.
I think.
Yeah.
6.
See,
I don't
all the
see
games that I would
16.
care about aren't coming out anytime soon. And by then, I would say maybe there'll be a pro version or whatever they call
Yeah.
the +1 version of that.
Well,
Like
by
maybe
that time, you'll be able to have a breakdown of whether there are certain problems with the system, certain problems with the service attached to either of these systems.
Mhm.
Problems of like exclusives. Like, you remember that old meme? The PS3 has no games.
You know what? I just finally thought of a game that might do it.
Okay,
Tales of Arise.
that's PS5 exclusive.
I mean, it probably won't be. I can't imagine it'll be at this point. I don't think Tales makes exclusives anymore.
Hmm.
I don't think so. I'm trying to remember if Tales of Berseria came out on all systems. I bought it. I obviously got it for the PS4. Tales of Destria,
Berseria-
I got for the PC, but I feel like I regretted that.
Well, let's see. Berseria and God, what was the other? Its sister game.
Well, there was Zestria, and then Berseria was the sister game.
Zestiria and Berseria also showed up on PC, but I don't think they showed up on Xbox. Whereas the remake of Vesperia, that was actually all systems.
Yeah,
So-
and you are correct. I can see that in Wikipedia. It never came out for the Xbox. So at that point, I would probably have to make a decision. Do I want to buy for if a next Tales game that comes out, will I buy it on the PC? And I don't know. It feels like games like that sometimes don't work out for me on a PC, and I don't know why.
Considering that the latest announced Tales game, like proper, as the fandom calls it, mothership title, was announced to be a PS4 title. Could be in the factor that, like, that title may also now be being cross-developed into being a PS4, PS5.
I have to imagine. I mean, 'cause, yeah, I'm pretty sure they had originally thought it would be PS4 when it was going to come out late in the cycle, but with everything's going on this year and the pushback and COVID, now they're past that mark. They're probably going to. Well, we already took time. We're already pushing it back. Push it back a little bit more and make it multiplat and call it a day cross-gen.
Yeah. Then there's the factor that I want to mention this because it is fairly relevant. Is there are certain games that if you purchase them digitally on the PlayStation Store, they state that you will when the PS5 is released, you will automatically get a copy of that game for PS5 as well.
Now you see, you saying that if I get that deal with Tales of Arise, I will get it for PS4 and then just play it on PS5 when that day comes. I'll be perfectly fine with that.
Well, this is the weird part about it, is that it's like those games that mention it. This would be the one that I will use as an example is Control.
Yeah, but that one has some sketch to it.
That one is like literally the way that I read into it is that it is going to be an actual PS5 version of the game. Versus just, it's just going to be using backwards compatibility, because the PS5 has been confirmed to have PS4 backwards compatibility to it.
The slight sketch that though was that you get that upgrade that you're talking about if you bought the Ultimate Edition. If you didn't, then you don't get that upgrade. You have to buy the game separately again. Yeah,
admittedly, like since I technically own Control on PC, I'm not going to bother.
Yeah.
But it's one of those situations where it's like, hey, certain companies are going, because some people are like, that's a nice thing that they did, because like that's been kind of an argument that's been tossed around a lot lately. Is like, hey, if I bought this game years ago on said system, and you have a digital library for it, and you're backwards compatible, why can't I just download that digital copy on the latest system? And
this is the same company. I already purchased the game once. Why am I purchasing the game again?
Yeah. Whereas like certain companies like Xbox is basically like, oh yeah, you've purchased it, you can download it. Just be warned that due to certain limitations, most likely your game will be upscaled in order for it to work on certain aspects. Because the Xbox Live Arcade, I'm pretty sure most of those games were designed with like 720p, maybe 1080p at a maximum resolution. And now we're seeing on the horizon like 8K TVs at the high end.
Mm-hmm. That's starting to become a thing. And it'll be maybe 3 or 4 years before they become the standard, like 4K is now.
Yeah.
Well, how many people have actually upgraded to 4K?
I have.
Eddie. Eddie has.
I've had one for almost 2 years now.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's one of those situations where it's like, yeah, upscaling. It's like the ones on Xbox. It's like some companies put out like 4K patches for those games on the Xbox Live Arcade, but certain games, like let's say PlayStation, where it's like, nope, you have to buy the game again. It's kind of got some people up in arms about it. So
we'll see how it goes. I think it'll be. I mean, as far as the actual experience with these new consoles, I think it's going to be a couple of weeks before we find out. Once people have their hands on it and they start reporting on it, and actually what people think, it'll be a couple of weeks before we get
no longer have to deal with the review embargoes and other things like that.
Yeah, those were lifted Thursday, I think.
It could be hopeful. It could be just another console generation.
Mm-hmm.
Which would be good, I think, overall. But
anyway,
it'd be nice if there's some progress, And then I guess one last thing. Speaking of the upcoming games, I think now's a good time to get into Mass Effect. That announcement that came out today, as of this recording.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
QMPX, because I don't know the story.
There isn't much of a story. Essentially, BioWare has announced they are creating a collection of the first 3 Mass Effect games not. I don't think that they're doing a doing of them or reimagining or anything like that. But I think they are essentially. But it does sound like they are at least upgrading them for modern systems. So
based off of what I'm reading, because I just decided to search for it, which it's called Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
yeah.
Is The Verge is listing it as a remaster of the original trilogy to PC and I believe console. Yes, console. So essentially, it is going to be a 4K remaster of the original trilogy for PC, PS4, Xbox One in 2021, and unknown amount of time for PS5 and Series X.
Well, if they're
So-
developing for a current gen system, I think they would have a favorable timetable of releasing in the next year.
Yeah. So yes, it's going to be
Didn't I read
updated.
spring 20? Yeah, it says 2021, spring 2020. Well, 2021.
Yeah.
I thought I read spring 2021 somewhere.
Well, yeah, but considering other delays and other things that are going on, who knows?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be optimized for 4K Ultra HD visuals. So that does not necessarily mean that they're going to be updating the engines, because I've heard various things about the various games. Like I've heard some people say don't play one because the gameplay is garbo. Other people say
I'm
like
on that
don't
boat.
play two and like don't play two until you've played one.
I don't believe that.
And then there's of course the standard like don't play 3 at all.
That's not true either. Like aside from the ending, everything else in 3 is really good. Yeah, I can tell you from experience. I've tried to go back to Mass Effect 1. Difficult, very difficult. They've really fine-tuned a lot of the mechanics in number 2, so much so that it's hard to go back to number 1. I can't go back
as
to number
I
1.
understand it, Mass Effect
Mhm.
1 was essentially designed as an RPG with guns,
Mhm.
while Mass Effect 2 is a shooter with RPG elements.
Essentially, the first one would be Borderlands, whereas the
Yeah, I
second
would say
one
less
is
Borderlands and more like if you were doing, D&D, but you were rolling with guns. It's not really you're shooting them and aiming at them. It's still a die roll, essentially, versus where in Mass Effect 2, it is more like Borderlands in the sense that you actually have to aim your guns and actually have to
Yeah.
hit things.
I think you had to do that in well, maybe you didn't. I don't remember now. I really don't remember number 1 very specifically. I just remember that it was.
I think there was a mode to actually play it like, the old Baldur's Gate games and things like that. So
fun.
I think, I can't remember. Like they had a floating third person view.
I just hope they do something about that. I would love them. I would love that they come out and say, "Hey, we quote unquote fixed Mass Effect 1 to be more
Don't say
playable."
fixed. Say we've added new quality
Well,
of
that's
life
the
features.
question of whether they're actually, just upscaling the textures, whether this is the difference between Command and Conquer, the re-release that happened how many months ago? 4 or 5?
5.
Versus Warcraft 3 Reforged. And it really is that difference. Like, I don't think they're going to be doing the same thing with Command and Conquer to that level and dedication of like going back on the FMVs and trying to use AI interpolation to fix, what the missing data is and things like that, so they could smooth out the video.
And maybe crisp it up a little bit for higher resolution.
Yeah. Versus, not to mention the game modes that allow you to see the game as it was, released back in the 90s versus some things that may help it for modern gamers, such as a wider view, slightly different graphics, things like that.
Mhm.
Quality of life features for certain things.
Mm-hmm. But what I'm expecting out of this is probably something closer to Warcraft Reforged, of where they just simply are tightening up the graphics and making it a bit more compatible with modern systems. They're probably not going to be doing anything such as, say, changing dialogue, changing mechanics, changing anything of the story so it smooths out or anything like that. They're probably just making a 4K version of Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that would be fine. Personally, I wouldn't get it. I think, I love Mass Effect, but I feel like I got everything I wanted out of that experience. And with 1 not being very playable, yeah, I don't know if I'd pick this up. I don't think I need to go back to it. Like, great that they're doing it, but I don't know if I'd be one to pick it.
You don't have enough of a nostalgia born to go back and actually say, yeah, I'll suffer through this again.
Yeah, exactly. I think I got everything I needed out of those games.
Yes, going back and playing really old games.
I mean, if
Not
it was
to
a
mention
Fallout
the
game,
other news
I would
that
do
went
it.
along with this. Sorry.
What?
If it was a
The
Fallout
other
game, I
news
would
that-
do it.
Mm.
Sorry, go ahead,
No-
PX.
Not to mention there are other news that came out with this, where
What
they
is
have
it? What is that news?
they're going to be working on a new Mass Effect game in the Mass Effect universe.
Now, that sounds interesting to me. I'm excited for
Well,
that.
considering the pratfalls they've had with Andromeda and Anthem, it is a question of what are they going to do next, really.
I mean, yeah, to that point, I mean, I think there's going to be I know they're working on this, but I think Dragon Age is going to come out before this. Whatever
Yeah,
next Dragon Age they're working on.
Dragon Age 3, actually.
You mean 4?
4.
So I think Dragon Age 4 is going to show whether this company is going to continue living or not.
Wait, no, it is 3 because Inquisition was not considered a numbered game.
This is so squirrely.
What? No.
Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Okay, I need to see the receipts for that, David. What are you talking about?
I'm literally looking up the next game of Dragon Age and it says Dragon Age 3.
No.
We have decided
Receipts.
to call this game Prey when it is actually called System Shock 3.
Dragon Age. I'm looking it up now. It's Dragon Age 4. On Wikipedia, it says Dragon Age 4.
Yeah, but the problem is that Wikipedia also says Dragon Age Inquisition is not a numbered title. So
That
where's
just
3?
it just means it doesn't have the number in it. That's all that means.
Or the fact that Wikipedia is wrong for once.
No, Wikipedia's never wrong. It hasn't been wrong since the 90s.
Last time I checked, Wikipedia is not.
If you can't use Wikipedia in a paper, you don't necessarily trust the
No,
information that's in
the trick is
necessarily.
you get the reference that Wikipedia is making, and then that's what you put on your bibliography. Gosh, guys.
I mean, yes, we know that there's going to be a new Dragon Age, but I swear everybody has stated Dragon Age Inquisition is not 3 because it's a side story.
I'll give you $100 if they call it Dragon Age 3.
I don't think they're going to call it that Dragon Age 3. I think they're going to choose a subtitle.
Yeah.
Which I think that makes sense. Yeah, they only ever used the number in Dragon Age 2. So
And then they started doing
people
stuff
had
like,
controversies about that, so I think they're trying to avoid it just because.
I mean, that
Yeah,
said,
so
I love
I'm-
Dragon Age 2. I don't understand why people had such a big problem with it.
It's not that so many people had differing opinions about it. It's the fact that you go from 1 to 2 and you're wondering what happened to the game. It's like you're going from playing Unreal Tournament to Call of Duty, and it's the same series, and you're going, what?
Yeah, I can see that.
but yeah, no,
Anywho.
I'm not going to take up on that bet because we know there's a new Dragon Age game on the horizon. They have made no other announcement for it. People have been calling it 4. Fans have been saying it's going to be 3 because Inquisition was not a mainline title, apparently.
That sounds like a troll. That's such a troll.
That doesn't
There's
sound like
also the inherent problem with Anthem because it's been a year since it was released. Was it released in 2018 or 2019?
18, I believe, like late 18.
Yeah.
No, I think it was early 19.
Okay.
Man, that was
February.
such a long time ago.
Yeah, and
Look, the point of
no-
even bringing up Dragon Age 4 or the 4th game or whatever you want to call it is that I think we're going to know when that game is released whether we should have any hope in the next Mass Effect game. Because if they fail with Dragon Age 4, that's 3 strikes against them in a row of like not being able to produce quality work like they used to. That's all I'm trying to say.
Given the factor that, like, isn't BioWare a subsidiary of Bethesda?
No.
Hmm.
They are under EA, I believe.
Okay. I was
they
going like,
probably have been since we haven't been able to get Mass Effect 2 and 3 on Steam until like past
just recently.
6 months.
Actually, no. It was Mass Effect 3 and Andromeda until like recently. 1 and 2 were available still.
Okay.
Oh,
Let me check.
as of 2007, the company is owned by American publisher Electronic Arts. So there you go.
Okay, so it's EA.
It's in the game.
It sure is, MPX. It sure is.
Oh boy.
Okay, next topic, which we'll see if this is a topic at all, because I have to ask you, do you guys watch this anime, or is it just me?
I watched the original run of ReZero before they did the reimagining last year.
The
The
director's
redo,
cut?
essentially. So I don't know what they changed during the director's cut. And considering that when I watched it, it was currently airing. So that was like back in 2015, 16 at
16.
late. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of out of it. I haven't been watching the season 2 yet because I probably should be watching the director's cut because I know that there were things that they changed for the original run of the season to essentially make it end correctly and nicely. And I read the spoilers of what would happen at the end of that happens in the light novel, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, I didn't watch the director's cut myself, but I think they just tightened things up. I don't know if they like outright change anything
from the
except
sounds
the
of
ending.
Well, from the sounds of the fans that had read the light novel, most of the original run of the season, like the first half of it, was relatively close to the books. But the second half took away some characters, changed some scenes, changed some introductions, things like that, that unfortunately need to be there for later events to make sense. Like,
I mean,
it's one of those
I can tell you that having watched 10 episodes of season 2, everything that I saw in the first season without watching the director's cut, I'm not missing anything.
Well, how long ago did you watch the first season?
Like a year and a half ago.
Okay. Well, can you decide that maybe you weren't paying attention that hard, or don't?
I mean,
Admittedly, there's one difference between memorizing major plot beats, like, oh, Subaru did this and went back in time and saw this, so he already knows what happens when Amelia dies and things like that.
I mean, I will say that ReZero does tend to be an anime that throws a lot at you, so I have had to reread some things, but it's always stuff that I reread and go, oh yeah, I remember when that happened now. Like, I haven't read anything and go, wait, I don't remember that not happening, or I don't remember that character. Like,
well, I
haven't
just
had any
wanted
of
to. I dreaded actually talking about this because I haven't watched the director's cut, and I was thinking that maybe the director's cut would help some things. For all I know, maybe they ended up just simply reanimating some scenes better.
And to me, I feel like that's all they did.
Maybe. But if they were going to go back and do a director's cut, I would be thinking they would be trying to re-edit some things so it's closer to the light novel. I mean, it's like complaining about, old Dragon Ball and the filler that, extended a fight scene in the manga that took 20 chapters, and suddenly it's 30 episodes.
Yeah.
And things like that could screw around with stuff. So I probably would want to watch the director's cut before getting onto season 2. But for what you have seen in season 2, would you say it has been good so far?
Yep, it's right back to the same goodness that season 1 was.
Okay.
I think the only thing that is different, but I think they're making up for it and just expanding the lore, is that I think a lot of the tension in the first season was, that the main character Subaru is new to the whole world, and that everything is, anxiety inducing because it's brand new. I think at this point, you and the character are
accustomed. I would argue that what was anxiety inducing was him dying and coming back.
That also, yes. Which, of course, is not gone. That is still very much there.
Well, that would be spoilers if you said that it was gone.
Good point. Hey, guys, the central premise of the anime is no longer there.
That's like saying Darth Vader is dead. Dies in the second movie or something. What?
Excuse me. I mean, and I guess to your point as well, I don't think we're going to dig into much more than that. Then, other than saying that I'm enjoying it because I don't want to ruin anything for you guys. But yeah, it's still the same goodness. I'm just happy that they're dubbing it because it means I can keep up with it. I thought they weren't. I didn't realize until last week that they were dubbing it this whole time.
Well, I've seen the dub already for Yashahime, so you can start enjoying that as well.
Ooh, okay. I heard the announcement of it. I didn't realize they were already on it. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, the first episode's already up.
Ooh,
at least on Crunchyroll.
I will be downloading that today. Okay, so that takes care of that. I think the other fun thing I want to talk about is the Borderlands 3 DLC, which bring that up because I haven't played Borderlands since it launched last year. I played through the main game.
Actually,
and did all that.
The curious thing of this. I would be thinking that this game would be getting like DLC after DLC after DLC.
Well, they got like 4 or 5 DLCs.
Well, yeah, but it feels like that there hasn't been that many DLCs.
I think they've been doing a lot in the since playing last year. like there's a whole bunch of new content that is already on what they consider the first season pass of the game, and there's still a whole
Yeah.
second season pass that's coming our way now.
Okay. Well, from the sounds of it, I thought this was going to be the final thing for the Borderlands DLC, and then it was like a resounding saying of that the game wasn't a success because this was going to be the final round of DLCs. And it's like, what?
No, absolutely not. On the contrary, they are now re-releasing the game for the next generation. So you're starting to see next generation versions being prepped. So that's going to be out soon.
It's going to have the first season DLC.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
All the characters are getting, they have skill trees in the game. They're all getting a fourth skill tree that's being added.
Okay.
So that's coming in, and then like I said, they're having a whole second season pass coming up, which is probably going to be filled with probably another 3 or 4 DLC storylines.
Yeah, I'm seeing. I literally went to Borderlands 3 on Steam, and one of the recent announcements is Ultimate Edition, as well as get ready for Next Level Mayhem with Borderlands Season Pass 2. So
And I have to tell you that the DLCs so far are top notch. I am really enjoying the DLCs. Like I think Borderlands 3 overall was really good. I do feel like there was a little bit of something missing in the main campaign that I was getting out of Borderlands 2, comparatively speaking. But that has all now been made up by the DLC. The DLC they're doing this time is just so good. Like
when you
especially
actually
the
got
Krieg
the
one.
game, I was about to mention the factor of like when you actually got the game running properly.
Yeah, I've been having some PC issues with that. Actually, I don't know. It's crashing my game my PC for some reason. But besides that, I mean, thankfully it's Borderlands, and they have their art style doesn't require having max graphics, so I can live with it.
Yeah.
Well, you can play any game without max graphics. The only problem is if you're actually lowballing it.
I have to do the lowest settings, otherwise it crashes for some reason. I don't have that with any other game.
It'd be worse than playing Halo for the PC on the TNT2.
Oh boy.
Like, have you ever watched that one thing that was actually pretty interesting for a while of people trying to play potato versions of games?
I think I saw somebody put a Doom version of Powered by a Potato sometime in the last month or two.
Okay, not literally powered by a potato. I'm talking about like they literally go into the config files to try to lower the graphics to the lowest possible setting.
Oh.
Like it literally, you are going and scratching your head of like, what is going on? It's like,
Yeah.
what?
I remember
Like,
watching.
ruinous starts happening.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, my PC isn't liking Borderlands 3, but nonetheless, I'm still enjoying the content, and it is, like I'm saying, it is really good. Especially the Krieg DLC, I think, is by far the best storyline I've seen in Borderlands.
Okay.
And it is good, like so good. Like I think Borderlands 2 was easily my favorite of the series so far, until I played the DLC for Krieg, and now Borderlands 3 now just takes the crown just because of DLC number for Krieg. So good. So good. And the rest of the DLCs I've been playing, I've played all but one at this point, and they're all really good. They're all really solid. But that Krieg DLC, I'm gonna sing his praises forever because it was just so good, so good, so good, and it's just fun. Like the increased level cap allows for a little more tinkering with the player abilities, and yeah, it's just plenty of fun. I don't get bored, even when I'm like item farming. It's just so good. So yeah, you all need to get on that. I don't know, David, have you ended up buying Borderlands yet?
I kind of actually took a look at the when it was released on Steam, where it was like 50% off for the entire game, and it's like that. I looked at it, sat for a bit, and it's like, you know what? That was a pretty good price for it, because every time I've seen it past that, it's been like 33% off. It's never gone to 50.
So did you grab it at that time? At that time, then, or you passed up on it?
I grabbed it at 50. Yeah, I got it.
Good.
But my PC, as stated fairly early in this conversation, not quite up to snuff for it yet. I mean, graphics card wise, yes. It's just I need to do some serious tooling,
some tinkering before we can appreciate it. Yeah, I understand.
Well, considering that I probably need to get more hard drive.
You mean
well, I
more
think you have
hard
something to
drive
look forward
space?
to.
Yeah, I need more space, and probably like just to upgrade my CPU at least, because it was good for getting up getting a computer up and running, but it is not by any means good
Current
for
gen.
current gen. It is, when I got it, it was actually 2 gens behind when I got it, technically. But anyway,
Well, when you do get on, I forget. Does Borderlands 3 allow for crossplay between Steam and Epic players? It should, I think.
I believe they stated it
yeah.
would.
Okay, so whenever you're on that, I wouldn't mind joining you for a game or two. Pair up with you.
Mm-hmm.
I like Amara, so I like using Amara.
Well,
So yeah, I definitely recommend the Borderlands 3 DLC if you all haven't tried it. Top tier. And with that, I think we're not going to be able to get into the last the last topic.
no, the last one
No.
itself.
We need more time.
God.
10 minutes isn't enough.
No, that one. It's. I feel like we'd just be doing like one conversation about that.
Well, if we're
And-
talking about like the entire Fate Stay Night stuff, going from the first game to its current iterations and successes and failures.
I mean, I think, I mean, I don't know how detailed you would want to get into it, but I definitely want to talk about the concepts of it. Like, I haven't played the original game, and I don't know if I ever will, but I've seen, like, 3 anime series, and I'm seeing the Heaven's Feel movies right now, so, like, that's pretty much my exposure to it.
Yeah.
And then, like, a brief stint with the FGO. Very brief.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, like what I can probably state about the first game is, while I have not myself played it, I have heard people state that the original visual novel, whether you're playing the original one with those scenes, which surprisingly it doesn't have a lot of them, versus the just one that edits out those scenes for just the story bits, you're only editing out like a minute or two for something that's like a 40-hour visual novel to get all routes, like everything done properly. Which normally a visual novel should take maybe 2-3 hours, 5 hours.
What kind of visual
wow.
novel are we talking about?
Just story-based one.
No.
Really?
I would say even if you are a speedy reader, there is a lot of text going on.
Well, no, the original Fate Stay Night, like I've heard, like it's at a minimum is going to be a 40-hour visual novel.
Well, yeah, because if we conclude all the routes together, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, we should probably not talk about that.
No,
Yes.
no, but that was a good taste of it. Good taste of it. And I don't know when it'll get brought up. It depends on how hectic the week of next gen consoles brings the kind of news to us next time.
Probably pretty hectic, honestly.
So
And
we may or may not see it.
yeah,
or we
in
may
that
not, may not get into it.
Yeah, for that one, we would probably want to bring in somebody who may not join us on voice, but somebody who would listen in and probably correct us, because he actually is probably about a bigger fan of Fate of the Fate universe than me or MPX.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, I mean, he can be like the record producer that's in the other room while we're doing our song, and they gave us notes. I'm okay with that. We'll see. We'll have to see. Maybe even one of these days we'll do a special recording on it or something. I don't know. Or maybe we'd have to make it an FRP, David. We'll have to do it under that umbrella.
okay,
We'll see. We'll see. But I think that's it for today. Wow, we're not overlapped with stream time yet. I have time to actually get up and stretch before we start the stream, which I'm also prepared for totally right now. So, yay for that. Any last things you all want to bring up? Any last thoughts?
Nope.
not really.
Alrighty. With that, we are good to go. Thanks everybody for listening to our actually complete, not really left anything dangling episode of FRG. Tune in next week. And don't forget the streams on Fridays and Saturdays. Extra Life, again, you'll see a link to it in the description. Please, please, please go ahead and donate if you can. If not, maybe give a bit of a open up for my brother who's doing the Extra Life. Leave a tab open for him. Besides that, I think that's it. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you all next time. Bye. Bye.
This has been a presentation of Front Row Geeks. Adios.